All right, today for our Atelier talk, we have Bryan Guardado. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty well. It's a little earlier than I usually record these, so
Yeah,
kind of waking up, but I'm feeling good, man. I'm loving this background that you got.
I
What,
know.
what does it
Yeah.
say back there?
It's this universe. I found it probably online somewhere. But I have a side project called Love Beat, and uh,
Mm.
it was about just exploring the universe out there and within yourself. And I just kind of expanded on that whole theme, and I've been leaving it on because I use it for work. And yeah, I'm loving it too. I think it works. I blend right into like the universe and yeah. But it's cool. It's a cool background, so I just leave it on.
Yeah, yeah, it's very inspiring.
Yeah, man. I hope people like it and want to go seek the universe within themselves as well.
Yeah, that's how I feel right now. I just feel like
Yeah,
talking about crazy stuff.
for sure. Yeah.
Stuff,
But
man.
music wise, I started a long time ago, and I remember the first time I heard a marching band. It was in elementary school, and they would march and do this whole show. So the first thing I remember falling in love with was like the snare drum, just drumming.
Mm.
And yeah, I was. That's kind of what sparked the interest in music. It was probably like fourth, third grade, something like that.
Mm.
But yeah, I can't remember if you asked me the question before or after. But
Yeah, that's cool. And then at some point you got into saxophone, right?
yeah, so the saxophone actually came when I was in sixth grade. Because in yeah, I guess at my elementary school they started you off in band in like fifth grade. That's like the youngest you could be. And at the time we couldn't afford. My mom couldn't afford to get a saxophone, so it started off with clarinet.
Hmm.
And I really wanted to, play saxophone. And I started learning music though on a clarinet, like notes and rhythms and stuff like that. But then eventually in sixth grade, I got a saxophone, and I would just be practicing on the saxophone then. And it was a used
Mm.
saxophone for like elementary and middle school, all the way up until high school. But yeah, saxophone became my main instrument starting in like sixth grade, then middle school. I played like the bari sax, the baritone sax, the big one, marching band, and then I played a little bit of jazz bands, a little bit of tenor sax, and all throughout like elementary, middle, and high school, I was just involved with playing saxophone. It was a passion of mine, and yeah, I still play it from time to time. I love playing it, and it's yeah, man, it's a unique instrument to say the least. Very
Mm.
soulful instrument.
Yeah, that's cool. You said you're in jazz band?
Yeah, I played a little bit of jazz band in high school, but I didn't play as much tenor saxophone as I wanted to, you know.
Mhm.
So I just kind of played in the alto sax section. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's my primary saxophone now is the alto sax, and yeah, from time to time, I think maybe the start of the saxophone is kind of what's carried me into like playing some jazz feely stuff now,
Yeah.
like just appreciating that genre
Yeah.
for itself. It's just kind of carried me through a little bit. It's very relaxing. So
Mhm.
I've used it in my own like relaxation. I just play it in the background whenever I'm doing work. So yeah, I love jazz music. And that's why like when it comes to like jazz and blues, like I guess I've gone more the jazz route.
Mhm.
Um, and I haven't picked up a lot of that soloing that's needed sometimes for the blues.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about in the past, like I wish I could just like solo like crazy, be one of those lead guitarists. I could just know their way around the scale all the time, but I'm more of a just a easy chords guy.
Mhm.
um, but yeah,
Yeah.
uh, jazz music, man. It's definitely a good relaxation um, method for me.
Yeah. And so I think songwriting like comes into the equation too with kind of what style, like what kind of musician you are. Because it definitely, like if you're a songwriter, it's nice to get really familiar with chords and know like what key you're in. Um, yeah, so I think would you say that playing chords helps you with songwriting?
Yeah, like playing open chords definitely gives me a basis as to where I'm at, you know, or like if I, whenever I write a song, like maybe I'll sing it first, you know, and I'll just try to like match whatever, I'll keep my tone or the melody the same, and I'll try to find the chords around that, you know,
Mm, mm,
and just like basic chords, maybe open chords,
mm.
to see what key I'm in to start there, and then I'll try to add a little bit of variety, you know, add some sevens in there, add some sustains, and yeah, just to see what sounds interesting. I don't settle on that open chord, and I'll just kind of, you know, mess around with what I don't know. I think that's probably one of the things that I've been experimenting a lot more lately is just if I play something on the guitar that I don't even know the name of that chord, like maybe that's a good thing, you know.
Mm,
And if it sounds good, um, then I'll just go with that, you know.
definitely.
I don't really want to go find the name of a chord if it's just if it's speaking to me in its in its sound, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah, I really, so yeah, when it comes to the writing process for me, I could, you know, play chords and play guitar all day, but sometimes the writing process will come out of me not playing music at all. It'll come from something I'll see or something I'll feel outside of music, and then I'll kind of go and get my guitar or get the piano, and then just keep repeating that over until it kind of fits, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I had a an experience recently where like one of the latest things I was working on was it was just this phrase. I was doing dishes, and in the middle of me doing dishes, I just kept hearing like you can overcome this, you know. And I was sharing with my friend that like I just felt like somebody needed to hear you can overcome this, you can over, and just kept repeating in my head.
Mm,
And finally, I just stopped. I just, in the middle of doing dishes, I just stopped and I went and grabbed the guitar and I just started feeling those chords out. Just, you know, you can overcome this. And then the words heal and love yourself just kind of came out. And that's where it's just started, you know?
yeah.
So it's almost like a creative spirit that you kind of tune into, and you just like, once you catch that wave, you ride it. And then once that wave leaves, you just, you know, go back to living life.
Yeah. Mm, that's cool. Have you ever gotten ideas in the car? I know a lot of people that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something.
And the new album has a song called Drive,
Mm,
and it's all about like getting in the car and driving and just clearing your mind with nothing but the road and the skies. And
mm,
um, yeah, especially like driving is very therapeutic for me. It definitely gets me outside of, you know, my normal day to day. Going somewhere, and it could just be somewhere small, somewhere like 15, 20 minutes away.
mm,
It just kind of clears your mind a little bit. And listening to music on the way there also does the same, you know. So the doing the two together, it allows for a lot of like meditation and space for clarity. And I think once you allow that space to happen, then you make room, you know, for other songs, other ideas to just kind of fill that space. And driving for me is definitely a therapeutic experience that allows me to potentially create more.
Do you by chance remember the first song that you ever wrote?
The first song I ever wrote was I think it was "I'll Go." It was it was I used to write a lot more religious stuff, you know,
Mhm.
and then it was like one of those, I can't remember the Bible verse that it came out of, but it's basically a Bible verse that says, "Go and make disciples of each other," you know, baptizing each other in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit.
Mm,
And back in the day, it was just like I felt the Holy Spirit calling me to just go out there and tell people like, go and move, you know,
mm,
go and travel, go and like make friends with each other, go, just go, you know. And it was something about saying, "I'll go," you know, just kind of listening to that call of going, you
mm-hmm.
know. Um, And yeah, it was a long time ago. It was maybe more than 10 years ago, maybe 12, 13 years ago or something like that. But it was I was being involved with my church at the time. I was helping out with as a choir director, choir leader at the time, and I just felt like, okay, well, I don't know, God's calling me to write these words and this melody, and um, yeah, I just think I'm gonna put it out there and see what happens. And it hasn't really been released. I released like a small little EP back then, but it wasn't something that I elaborated on. You know, I just kind of continued to the next project. So yeah, I'll go. It's just something about moving. Like you always have to keep moving
Hmm.
to stay alive. You know.
Mm.
So
Yeah, well, you've been moving quite a lot recently with this new album coming up. Talk about the album a little bit. What is it? What is it called?
it's called Heartland,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a project that probably started about like the idea of it was maybe about 5 years ago. You know,
Yeah.
um, and I traveled a lot in like 2015 with my girlfriend Danielle, and we went to like we quit our jobs and we traveled for like 4 months. We did like 13 countries or something like that,
Wow.
and it just kind of started off with like, man, we don't really know what's going to happen when we
Mm.
go. We don't but we kind of were just being carried by faith, you know, and we dealt with things while we were out there. We um, yeah, we just kind of dealt with it as it came.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes um, not knowing, not having a plan, just like living with uncertainty, it changes you, you know, and it definitely gives you a broader perspective as to where you fit in this like greater body of life, in this like this human experience, you know.
Mm.
And Heartland just kind of started with fear. You know, it started with fear of the unknown and like, okay, what I don't know what I'm gonna go do now. I'm quitting a stable situation, which is work, and I'm not gonna I don't know what the rest of my life is panning out to be, but I'm gonna trust this experience. I'm gonna live it for the present, and I'm gonna see it through. You know, and I think that's what this project kind of reflects. If you hear the album from the start to the end, it really takes you on a journey from like being asleep, you know, just kind of being and it like the beginning phrase kind of says, let me awake tonight, you know, because sometimes it's one of those experiences that, you know, when you wake up to in a situation when you're normally supposed to be asleep, you
Yeah.
just realize way more things, you know,
Mm.
like you are more aware of your surroundings, and you open up your heart to see beyond what's in front of you.
Yeah.
um, and I think, yeah, the album, it kind of takes the listener through a journey of like, you know, open up your heart to see beyond what's in front of you, and have faith that it could lead to more journeys. It could lead to a rediscovery of yourself.
Mm.
It could lead to finding love, finding peace, finding new relationships, finding family uh, in that destination that maybe you didn't have originally. Maybe it wasn't your intention to reach that destination, but following your heart and following God's Holy Spirit to that destination will make you a stronger, better human being, you know? And I think, yeah, if you listen to the album from start to finish, it takes you through just this journey of a rediscovery of yourself, you know, finding who you are in God's heartland. So that's kind of the summary, I suppose, of the album. And yeah, I hope people heal with it, honestly, because like that's in writing those songs and playing them at live shows, you know, I, I think the intent behind the whole album and the whole and every single song is healing, you know, healing within myself so that I can be healing through the music for others. And I think that's really what the album is intended to do, you know. Um, but yeah, I'm hoping the listeners and the people heal with the album for sure.
Mm. That's super rad. would you say is that your experience of music? Do you use music, like do you listen to music and get healed through that process of listening?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, music is one of my major forms of healing. Um, Aside from maybe running, traveling, socializing, absolutely. Music is like the top three, you know. Um, Driving is another form, but I listen to music of all kinds, like from rap to dance to, yeah, like EDM, techno to reggae to a lot of classical piano. It definitely has a an effect on my mood. And I
Mm,
realized that once I can be conscious of my mood, of my own feelings,
mm,
um, then I'm able to have more self control, more discipline. So it definitely makes me more aware of myself, and what's going on within.
mm,
Um, so yeah, I for me lately, I've been listening to a lot of. On Pandora, I think there's a couple of radio stations I have on queue. One is like Chill Hops is one of them, which is really
mhm.
cool. The other one is like acoustic radio, and then just piano music. Oh, Asian Zen Spa, that's another good one that I go
Nice.
to.
Nice.
And it's one of those things that I just like. Um, yeah, I heal through music, man. I absolutely do, and I hope people find that like music is not just something that you turn on and let time pass with, and it's one of those things that you can interact with, and you can definitely use it for your own healing.
Hmm.
And I definitely think that in a time where a lot of people are losing their jobs, or potentially getting sick from COVID-19, like get as much healing as you can, and that could be through music, that could be through nature, which is what I'm doing. But it could be through talking to people like you, or any way. Just get healing in your system. Just heal yourself as much as possible. And yeah, I encourage people. I tell everybody to listen to something that'll relax them. I tell people to like just if even if you're just at home, like reading a book or washing dishes, have like piano radio playing in the background because it'll definitely make you feel better.
Mm. It
You know?
sounds like the healing process for you is very reflective. It's almost like becoming emotionally conscious.
Hmm.
And once you can be aware of that, then you can start to like plan and take action um towards changing certain behaviors. Is
Right.
that yeah, okay.
I feel like, I mean, if you recognize that you are a certain way, let's say that there's moods and emotions that you constantly um, tend to be like. For me, for the longest time, I have had issues with anger. Like sometimes when you don't have control over situations,
Mm,
um, you or you're fearful of negative outcomes. Like I guess it's an emotion that naturally comes up. You're angry because you want to control something. And the
mm,
older, the wiser you get, you realize the less control you may have over situations or people. And I think it's just been one of those realizations for me that like I can't control everything that happens. I can't control everyone, and like control is definitely not something that I seek anymore. It's
mm,
it's just more gratitude and acceptance, and I feel like um, music has definitely led me to that realization. Is like just accept, because music comes in all shapes and forms, and once you learn to appreciate all the genres, and you just realize how much more accepting you are of people and of situations and of places and of you know of everything. So sometimes like I know that maybe it's not the most Christian thing to say, like, no, yeah, like accepting everyone and everything isn't like so indoctrinated, but I just think that's probably the way to peace, is to be accepting of our fellow brothers and sisters, and love them for who they are.
mm,
And yeah, I definitely think that the change within me has been um, being, yeah, slower to anger, I suppose, through music, because if people know me, like people know that I wanted to be a film director, and I wanted to be like this big time producer in Hollywood and stuff. And it didn't really turn out that way for me. And I'm not saying it won't, but for the time being right now, like I'm not going to be um, upset or discouraged because I'm not there. I'm
Yeah.
just going to be more accepting and loving of my situation and those around me.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it's placed me right now.
Yeah. I really like that idea that like being open and starting to understand diversity helps us grow. But I feel like patience is so important with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Being patient with one another, man, I think that's definitely one of the things that you know when it comes to the profession I was seeking, patience isn't always like the thing that's practiced. Like people want something now, they want it quick, and that's our society. Like
Yeah.
you got to turn over the next project and like just
Mm.
keep producing. um, and it's just one of those things that our society, our times, just it doesn't allow space for. Patience is not one of the things that we slow down to practice. And man, like when you try to step away from that, take a step back from being caught in this like systemic rush,
Mm.
um, you realize like how healing patience can be. Like if you, I was just we went to Portland, and we went to this what's called Silver Falls National Park recently, and you just appreciate the stillness of trees and like how gentle like everything can be around you. And man, like good things, they require patience, they require a long time. Relationships, they require patience, they require a long time. And
Mm.
I know that we want the results now. Like we're taught to just like need things now to like consume the next thing. But if
Mm.
you like step away from that consumer materialistic mentality, you can realize there's a lot of value in patience. There's a lot of value in silence. There's a lot of value in that space, and that giving yourself that time.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah. You also mentioned, I feel like you were like getting towards like talking about attachments and like kind of like letting go of the control.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of songwriters about that too. Just like their them saying that the music industry kind of prepares them for just life and kind of creates resilient people because it's so difficult. It can be so difficult to know how to promote things, to know whether you should master or like how you should mix things, and the whole studio process of recording, of writing. Like, should you collaborate with people, should you hire a writer? Like there's so many decisions to make um, when you decide you want to like release your music professionally. And I feel like you're right in there. When does your album release?
It releases this Friday, and
Mm.
I'm also in that, right in that. It's release week, so I'm also getting like friends and telling people about it. I got like flyers and magnets that I printed out from Vistaprint, and I'm like
Mm.
trying to stay excited because the truth is you are absolutely right. And I have no control whether people go out and listen to the album.
Mm.
They may look at it and they say this is a bunch of junk, but the truth is like we came to exist, and we have to give ourselves our full potential. We have to give ourselves the time, that credit. Like every single person has their ability to express themselves. And I think this is just my form of expression, this album. And I'm just giving it like the time and the attention and the voice that it deserves. And yeah, I'm doing my part to just kind of, you know, promote it a little bit. But the marketing aspect of it is my least favorite part of the
Hmm.
music business, the music making process. Um, but yeah, I feel like um, the self control aspect. I feel like it definitely trains you. You know, it gives you a lot of thick skin when you've been doing it for a while, and you just realize, hey man, like yeah, people aren't going to pay attention to you if you're doing this for attention. You're probably
Hmm.
in the wrong field. You know, um, I realized like yeah, I'm doing this for expression. You know, and I think as long as you as a songwriter, you as a musician or as an artist, if you express yourself and it's just one person, or not even one person, maybe you're the one person, you know, if you're the only person appreciating the expression that you put out there, then I really don't think it matters, you know, because you are happy and content within yourself for that piece of art that you produced. And I just think that you have to kind of change your mindset when it comes to songwriting or create, you know, being a professional musician. I just think it's one of those experiences that it will teach you a lot of you know, how to deal with rejection, how to deal with um, yeah, life in general, you know, because you won't always be accepted by everyone, and you have to be resilient through that. You have to kind of push through and say like, hey, I'm going to be okay no matter who doesn't give me the attention. I'm going to be okay no matter like what this project does or doesn't accomplish, you know, and I'm okay within myself because I got that expression out, and it's okay, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah, I feel like the self-control thing, or having control over like the outcome of a project. I've learned to let that go a while ago because it's just one of those things where I just don't know. Once you, as a musician, once you put the project out there, you don't know what ears it's going to come across, and you don't know who needs to hear what. You know, just like for me, like I know that I've listened to a ton of music, and those artists probably don't know that I've heard them,
Hmm.
but maybe in some way or some form, like they have changed my life. They've like altered my mood, maybe when I really needed it, and so you just put it out there and you trust God to like use it in situations and times that you are beyond your control.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I've always been drawn to the last song on people's albums.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Can you talk a bit about your choice for the final song on this album?
Oh yeah. Well, it is the self-titled song Heartland, and
Mm.
at the very end, it's got a little bit of a rhythm, like a nice little beat to it, and a really simple piano tune that just keeps repeating throughout the whole song. It's a really simple song, really, but what I wanted to focus on were some of the things I'm saying, like the lyrics of it, and yeah, you go through this whole journey in the album to come to this Heartland song, and it is a destination, but it's not necessarily a physical destination. Like you can't point to it on a map and say that's Heartland.
Mm.
Um, it's more of an ascended um, state of mind, you know, where you see God's love, you see the heartland everywhere and in everyone, you know. And I feel it's one of those like new eyes, you know, like real eyes that God gives us in seeing every place and every situation. And yeah, the last song just kind of repeats in your heart, your heartland, you know, that there's no abandoning, there's no suffering, there's ascension, there's all of these other things that we can find in this elevated state of mind, you know. And once we have that heartland viewpoint, then we can definitely start to change the world with by changing ourselves with that viewpoint,
Mm.
you know. So that's kind of where I'm at a little bit. It's like Heartland, the overall project is a journey traveling to. I traveled, you know, I've been traveling a lot of places and finding a lot of great hikes and meeting a lot of great people, but I do end up keep coming back home, you know, and it's like the alchemist, you know, where he traveled far and to because he was pursuing a treasure, but he came back and he came to realize like what was at his heart's desire, and yeah, I just felt like all of that was kind of at the core of this project and at this song is you have to really rediscover yourself. You have to see who you are with with the heart of God. You know, like what has He intended uh, for you? Like, why did He make you? Why are you here on this earth? And like, go wake up to that realization and work with that.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, like the very last phrase of the song is "We're ascending in your heart, your heartland." You know, and I think that's what we're just being called to do overall is to ascend as one body of love with God. You know, at the end, like in every situation, um, just ascend out of whatever uh, torture, ascend out of whatever suffering.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and I think I don't know. Danielle, my girlfriend, she texted me a little while ago. She's like, "It's 7:21. Today's Ascension Day." And I'm like, "What's Ascension Day?" So she often like reminds me of these kind of things. So she's also like an underlying, you know, force for me in realizing like, hey, you know, ascend out of like suffering, ascend out of like torture, ascend out of like these chains and these barriers that our society seems to put us in, and just heal and ascend as much as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's sweet. I'm really excited to listen to the album.
Yeah, man.
I also think it's really cool. Um, you've continued to write, like, during this process. I think
Yeah.
that seems really important because, yeah, that you haven't stopped, because that seems like a very important part of who you are. And if you get caught up in the promotion and the marketing and all of those things that make sense to get caught up in because they're important, but it seems like you're still open to that, to the voice within you and to that creative process, even though you have all this work to do.
Yeah. I mean, I get caught up with work. I'm still working right now, and um I you know, it's so easy to get caught up um
Mhm.
and not create, you know, like lose focus and not spend time with the guitar, with the keys, or with the lyrics. And I think it's one of those experiences where you have to fight against that. You know, you have to be disciplined as an artist or a creative person
Mm.
to set time aside to focus on your craft, to focus on the things you love to do. Because once you make that a priority, once you make that a discipline, then it kind of it's your own healing time too. You heal with that creation of whatever art you're creating. So yeah, I think it's just sometimes you just have to be you have to slow yourself down from everything going on and just allow that creative process to work through you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the original question? I think I lost track of what you asked.
Oh, that's okay. Me too. That's cool. We've gone deep into
Into the
the
universe.
yeah. Yes. And
Yeah,
hopefully the heartland.
the heartland, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ascension. I think that's very important right now. I think a lot of people have uh, suffering that they weren't expecting.
Yeah, and I think
So,
that's
yeah.
that just reminded me of what I was gonna say is
Mm.
like ascension is it's just this idea of like getting out of whatever suffering is going on, you know, in your own home, in your own family, and just taking time aside to like relieve yourself from whatever that torture may be. Like ascend, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to like go climb a mountain and like, you know,
Mm.
be free, be one with the sky and nature. It just means like just close your eyes and just take a minute to breathe, you know,
Mm.
because it's in that breathing that you're actually like healing yourself. So um yeah, I think ascension is just realizing like God allows us the opportunity to just like look within and heal ourselves with his own love, and just ascend out of these physical tortures this body, you know, like we can go into a universe within,
Yeah.
um, to just have peace. And so, yeah, I think what I was gonna say is like, yeah, creatively, like it requires space and time, and it requires a lot of like just slowing down to create more.
Yeah. Yeah. This is I think it's so important to have tools. You know, it's like I believe very strongly that God put things on earth for us in order to use to slow down and to find connection and that kind of union with
Oh, nice.
with that with, you know, just it's hard to almost articulate it because it's a union with you don't want to say everything like you were saying earlier, like every, you know, it's hard to say like everyone and all that, but it is, it's like you know what it feels like when you pick up an instrument or something like this,
Yes. Yeah,
and you know it feels like
absolutely.
you can't say it's just
Wow. It's so interesting to me to just hear the presence of that, you know? It's like it demands space. It demands like take a breath, you know?
yeah.
And I think it's important just to like give it that space, you know? It's like wow, when you it's like awe, you know? When you
Mm.
hear something or you see something that you're in awe of, it forces you to just slow down and stop and appreciate,
Mm.
you know. So it's one of those, yeah, realizations of like that sound is just awareness, just like come to present, come to awareness of like
Mm.
space that is being given to you right now, and time or no time. And I think that's really what man, that was beautiful, thank you. I was just like meditating through it here, so
Cool. Yeah, that's it's so helpful. Definitely helpful. That's interesting what you said, because to me the word like stimulated, right? Stimulation came in.
that's
And I
yeah.
feel like, you know, there being aware of how stimulated we are is also really important. But I think that initial contact, like if something can stimulate you enough, like right away, then you're present. You're no longer like worrying about the past or thinking about the future. Like you're right here, right now, hearing this sharp pitch,
Right.
you know, vibrating, and you're just like you're in your body all of a sudden. You're right here,
Mhm.
which is
I think
important. But
yeah.
we get lost in that though, right? Like at some point, is there a point where we can just be so stimulated? Like I think TV, right? Movies, video games, things like this are the most stimulating things. And is there a point where like we can just be over, or social media, right? Like so overstimulated that we break down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially with Instagram and how you're just like flipping through sometimes, we just get caught in this like autonomous form of like flipping what's next, what's next. We're
Mm-hmm.
basically watching like hundreds of channels, you know, it within like a minute or 2 minutes, however far fast you go on Instagram. But yeah, it's important to turn that off
Mm-hmm.
because I think the before we know it, like addicts don't realize when they're addicted, you know. I think we can definitely get to that point without even realizing it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just that practice that forms like that behavior, you know. And I think yeah, like especially nowadays, being overly stimulated is just something that your body or your mind is it gets used to real quick, you know. And I think if we don't get that overstimulation, whether it's through Instagram, social media, TV, music, coffee, even, or alcohol, or
Mm,
drugs, like all of these stimulants, if our body doesn't get it, um, then there's like there's this depletion in our
right.
energy, in
That's
our
right.
consciousness, you
Yeah.
know. And I feel like it's being able to not need all of those stimulants and being able to be with yourself, you know, and nature, and just breathe in the natural elements that that help us, you know, be resilient through any of this, you know, constant stimulation. Just being able to turn it off and realize when you're overdoing it, um, that's when you know, like, okay, it's time for me to just come back to consciousness. It's time for me to just be present here, and not give into this overstimulation, not give into this, like, yeah, over consumerism is what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
Because in the end, like, it's it's all being put out there so that we may consume it and desire it more, you know.
Mm.
And I think the less you consume, the less you desire it, the more you realize how, you know, content you could be with yourself, you know,
Wow.
just being you, not needing any external, like, stimulant, you know, or anybody else even, you know.
Yep.
Because yeah, I think it's important just to reiterate how important it is to discover yourself with, you know, your own universe and be content here. And
Mm.
I think once you do that, you become more of a minimalist. You realize you don't need so many material things. You don't need money as much. You don't need people as much sometimes. Um,
Mm.
and it's okay, you know, like you can survive this day just kind of being kind to yourself, like hugging yourself, loving yourself, treating yourself right, especially when you're hurting. So yeah, I think it's good to be conscious of when you're being depleted from lack of stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Love
mindset.
yourself.
What?
I said love yourself.
Yeah.
Love yourself.
Yeah, that mindset seems to be very important during this time. Um, just to prepare yourself for basically anything, you know, for things to be taken away that I don't think a lot of people could have imagined being taken away. Like,
Right.
right? Because now we have all these like laws and there's like all these ways that we know we'll be able to keep our job and make sure our 401k keeps getting fed and right, like we have all these ways in which you know we can control our situation and make sure our housing is good and our utilities will stay on and like all these backups and insurance, like even
Yeah.
if we get in a car accident we're gonna have a car the next day. Like there's just all of this redundancy right now,
Yeah.
and this pandemic is a reminder that there is a chaotic element to the world and to the human experience, and don't forget it.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you, I mean, we are definitely, I don't want to say we're coddled, but we're taken care of in a
Mm,
way that, like, nature has, like, naturally, if you were to be born out in the wild, you wouldn't necessarily be taken care of that way, you know. You go look at animals, and you know, it is a fight or flight daily practice, you know. It's one of those things that they have to figure out on a daily, where to get their food, how to survive from predators. And it's when you place us in a natural element, then we've been conditioned to just be weaklings in a sense, you know.
mhm,
But at the same time, it's also a blessing because we've learned how to protect ourselves, you know.
mm,
We've learned how to take precautions for these from these things happening. And I think it's just it's good to acknowledge, like, the consciousness that's evolved through all of these experiences in the past, you know. And I think, yeah, like, now I get that insurance is an interesting thing because it'll prevent you from overpaying, or, you know, there's a lot of these precautionary measures that have been taken place, or get set in place. But at what point are we, it's important to take a step back and realize, at what point are all of these precautions becoming systemic, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like once you realize, okay, do I really need this extra layer of clothing? Do I really need to go buy a month's worth of food?
Hmm.
Is that really necessary? You know?
Yeah.
And at what point have we been conditioned to just fit right into the system of consumerism
Hmm.
that's established for us to just keep giving, you know?
Hmm.
So I just want, yeah, for me, I think it's important just to realize like, okay, some of these things are set in place, but it's not for everyone, you know? And I think it's important to realize like, what do you need? You know, just go
Yeah.
based off, do you need that, you know?
Yeah.
And if you do need it, you know, then go ahead and go for it. But if you don't need it, then definitely take a step back and discipline yourself from needing too much. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, because people nowadays are losing their jobs like this, and they're realizing, oh my gosh, like I was paying like all these monthly bills for no reason, like DirecTV or like all of these like huge bills that they were just getting pulled out of my paycheck that I just got comfortable receiving. But now that I don't have it, it's like, oh wow, I'm cutting all of these excess things that I don't really need, or really did I ever need them? You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's an important lesson that a lot of people are having to learn or relearn. Maybe they've gone through it before, but they're having to just be reminded of like, look, you don't need this much. So it's some sort of a correction. I feel, you know, at least for me, it's opening up my eyes and realizing like, hey, like things can go south real fast, and all of these excess layers and comforts and materialisms that are placed out there for us to have, like they can be removed, and you can just realize like it's you can keep it simple, you know.
Yeah.
You could live life simply, and you'll be just fine. So yeah.
Yeah. I feel like another issue in regards to that, a place of growth for all of us is credit cards.
Yeah.
It's like, um, I get it. I get why they exist. I get like hopefully the first person in their intention was like, well, houses cost this much to build,
Right.
people have this much money. How can they how can they live in this house and pay payments right on this house and
Mhm.
like get someone get some help in order to buy it. Like that to me makes sense. Like credit cards should exist and credit should exist for that reason. And say like if you're going to get a bunch of money at the end of the month, then like you can use a credit card now to buy all of these things, but you know that you're going to actually have those assets, have that cash. But what
Right.
it's turned into is credit card companies make money when people forget or when people don't have the cash.
Right.
So there's this like horrible system of reinforcement. It's like people against people. It's
Yeah.
like it would be impossible for a credit card company to hope that every person could organize their finances really well and be stand-up citizens and
Right.
like stand up like one mind like perfectly knowing like when they're gonna have the money and all that because they wouldn't make any money.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so to me it's like, oh, this is people against people activity.
Yeah.
If we actually cared for each other and we were patient and wanted everyone to be financially stable and like make wise decisions financially, we don't have this system. The
Right.
system, there are limitations on this system to where people aren't being taken advantage of. Because if you give someone even like $3,000 on a credit card like a limit, they most people are going to use it. Most people are going to see that number and they're like, I know what I would spend $3,000 on, and they're going
Mhm.
to buy it
Right.
without having any understanding of how much income they're making or if they're ever going to have that money to spend.
Right.
And then you start paying interest, and now that $3,000 turns into $5,000,
Yep.
and then you can buy another credit card, right? And then so that's something for me. I've fortunately been able to like I've stayed away from for long enough to see like I don't want that. And now the crazy thing is people are like, "Oh, but what about cash back?" This
right,
whole cashback thing is literally just trying to get people into that system, and they're banking on those people to still make those same mistakes as before.
right.
And now
Yeah,
there's this incentive like, oh, you have to use credit now. You're dumb to not use credit because, you can't get cash back. And it's just like, at what point are we spending all of our time thinking about cards and money and percentages? And I don't want that. I don't know.
mhm.
Maybe a lot of people want that with their life. They want to think about numbers and money and like this little game. I don't want to play the game, dude. I want to make music.
Absolutely. And that's probably the way to go, man, because like I mentioned earlier, music is the way to be conscious. And
Mm,
once you stay conscious, you realize the system. And I think if you see the underlying like form or like the underlying like blood of this system is to consume, like
mm,
at what point are you going to wake up and realize that this system that you're buying into with your credit cards is going to consume you, you
mm,
know? So yeah, I think it's important to, yeah, if you do have a credit card, use it wisely and realize what you like, what you're going to use it for. Make sure is it something that you need, or is
yeah.
it something that it's going to like, it's
Mm,
going to end up being more expensive than what you originally wanted to spend. So
yeah.
yeah, when it comes to credit cards, like I see their purpose and I see how you can use them in
Yeah.
order to establish better credit, I suppose. But getting to a point where they're going to consume you and take over your monthly income, that's not wise at all. And I feel like yeah, avoiding them if you realize you're not disciplined enough to use them,
Mm.
that's probably the best route. I think.
Is anybody though, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Is anybody disciplined enough to use them? Like, I think so, but like, man,
yeah. It's hard, man. Like
most people's
they throw
houses
a
are
lot
a
of incentives out there.
mess. We can't even like clean up our rooms, Like like it's just yeah.
Like for example, I've been wanting to buy a new guitar for the longest time. Probably like this. It's a Gibson, and I haven't given myself that luxury. And my coworkers and even family, they're like, "Dude, just go buy the Gibson. It's
Mm,
fine, man." But I'm like, I know that if I have the Gibson, yes, I will play it. But I know that I'm probably going to put it on a credit card, or I'm probably going to like Guitar Center is very like I get the emails and I'm like, man, it's time to buy. Like this is the year, this is the time. But I also don't want to like get overwhelmed with work or get too busy to play it. So
yeah.
I do have another electric that I just practice on, and for the time being, it's doing the job. And I will eventually get to that Gibson, but I don't
What
think
is it?
it's
Say the name, dude. Say the
it's the
name.
Les Paul, man. It's just like a Les Paul Studio. It's not like the craziest one. It's a really simple one, and I think it's even under $1,000, honestly.
Mm,
But it's just me realizing, like, I know that once I give into that Gibson, like, it's just me giving into like something. When you think of like financial training or that kind of mentality, it's not necessarily. I don't see it as an asset right away.
mm,
It's going to be something that I may be liable for, but in the long term, once I get really into my music and I'm performing more, and I'll be able to bring that guitar out,
mm.
like it may become an asset. But for the time being, it's just one of those things that I'm like, I just don't want it sitting in the closet, or
Yeah.
just like on the guitar stand. And yeah, I'm just trying to be wise with not spending the money until I know I'm going to use it.
Well, honestly, man, it sounds like maybe your biggest asset right now, and that's it's like a beacon for you. It's literally pushing you, because we need to be motivated, right? If we're not motivated, we have nothing. And
Right.
right now, like not having it seems to be motivating you. It seems to be helping you become the person you want to become. You're like, okay, I want to play more shows, or I want to like get, have this album out and like things like that. And
Yeah.
having that thing that you haven't allowed yourself to have yet, it just pushes you.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
as soon as you have it, then like, where's your motivation? Like, where's it
Right.
coming from? Then you have to have another dream, right? Then you have to have another item, and it will come. But yeah, I think that's very smart of you to like be very patient and
Yeah.
understand the importance of that item.
I think so. And it comes, you know, when it comes to like growing up and adulting and getting to this part of my life where I have coworkers and family again that they're telling me get a new car. You know,
Mm.
like I have drive a car that's about, let me see, 13 years old now, and it's got like about 300,000 miles. But I'm trying to keep it because I realize it's preventing me from getting a new car or making payments.
Mm.
And what I tell my friends is like, I'm not going to buy a new car until I have like a better garage to put my new car in.
Mm.
My eyes are kind of set on like having a home, establishing that kind of asset for the future.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's important just to keep your eyes set on that goal.
Mm.
Instead of giving in and just being distracted to the other liabilities, because they are just going to enslave you to staying in the system. If you ever want to like quit your job or like retire or like travel, like sometimes you have to realize the things that are forcing you to like stay at work.
Exactly.
Sometimes you have to realize the things that are taking money out of your pocket. And
Yep.
if it's a credit card or a car or all of these other things, then what is it going to take for you to not go get that car, to not go spend on that credit card? Like, is it going to take? It's not going to take them like advertising a new product that's going to save you more money. It's
Mm.
going to take you just realizing whether or not you need that product. And once you realize you don't need that product, you don't need every single new item that's being put out there, then you could like probably you know get closer to a financially free life, where you don't really
Mm.
need money.
Mm. Freedom. That's something.
Freedom.
That's something to hope for and to
Yeah.
value. Yeah. Well, dude, this has been super awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing about the new album and just um, even more so about who you are.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for everything you do, for giving me the time, giving me the space to speak. Um, and yeah, man, I hope we collaborate more, and hopefully we'll work on more things together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Right on. Well,
definitely.
go check out Brian's album, everybody. It's been
Yeah, I
really.
got a little picture of it. One
Oh,
sec.
yeah, definitely.
See if I
Definitely
can
share that with
pull it
us.
up. I don't know if this will come up or not.
Yep.
It is.
Yep. In and out.
Something like that.
Oh, that's cool. That was very sci-fi. Yes.
All right.
Cool,
Yeah,
man.
Nathan, it's always a pleasure, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah. We'll talk again soon.
For sure, man. Take it easy.